Now we're going to take a look at a problem where we're going to multiply a mixed number by a whole number. So this says, Christina is planning a dance routine. At the end of each measure of music, she will make 1 1/4 turns. How many turns will she make after the first 3 measures of music? So I know that she's making this 1 1/4 turn each of the 3 measures. So I'm going to do 1 1/4 times 3. Okay. Last time we did this, we talked about using the distributive property, which can help us figure this out using mental math. So what we did was we broke apart our mixed number, 1 1/4, and we broke it into 1 plus 1/4. And then we multiplied those by 3. So it looked something like this. I'm going to switch my colors because now I'm moving on to another step. So what I'm going to do to use the distributive property is I'm going to multiply 1 times 3. Okay, so 1 times 3. And I'm going to also multiply 1/4 times 3. And then I'll add those together because I know, so I'll be doing both of those. I know that 1 1/4 is the same as 1 1/4. So let's solve it. 1 times 3, change colors again so we can keep track of our steps here. 1 times 3 is 3. That's a bad 3. 1/4 times 3 is 3/4 because I know that 1 times 3 is 3. Keep the denominator the same. So I know that Christina makes 3 3/4 turns at the end of 3 measures. Okay, that's one strategy we could use to multiply a mixed number by a whole number. We're going to take a look at another way that we could do this. So I'm just going to clear my board so we can use another strategy instead of the distributive property. So another strategy we can use to find the product of a whole number and a mixed number is to rename the mixed number as a fraction and multiply that by the whole number. So we're going to take a look at how to do that right now. So let's rename, well, let me write out this equation again because we had 3 times 1 1/4. So we can rename 1 1/4 as a fraction. Well, let's think about that. I know that 1 1/4 is the same as 4/4. And then I have this 1/4. So together, those are 5/4. So 1 1/4 is the same as 5/4. So now I'm going to multiply 3 times my fraction greater than 1, 5/4, to get my product. So 5/4 is equivalent to 1 1/4. We just renamed it as a fraction. So 3 times 5 is 15. I can keep my denominator the same, and I get 15/4. But I need to make sense of that because if I ask how many turns will she make after the first 3 measures of music, 15/4 doesn't really make sense in this situation. So I need to take this fraction greater than 1, 15/4, and rename it as a mixed number because this is telling me that she's making 15 1/4 size turns, 15 quarter turns. Well, what is that in a mixed number? I know that 4/4 turns or 4 quarter turns is equivalent to 1 full turn. So I can count by my 4s, count by multiples to see how many would get me close to 15, and then I might have some left over. So let's take a look at that. So I know that 4/4, that's 1 whole. So I'm just going to kind of count by the multiples here. Now I'm at 8/4. Whoops, I'm just doing a plus sign. Okay, that's 12/4. And if I did another 4/4, that would get me at 16/4. That's too high. So here I have 1, 2, 3 wholes because I'm going to label those 1, 2, 3 wholes, right? 4/4 plus 4/4 plus 4/4. And that's 12/4. Well, 15 minus 12 is 3/4. I have 3/4 left over. So we'll do plus 3/4. So that equals my 15/4. And I know that that then gives me 3 3/4 turns. So another way that I could have done that is, I'm just going to erase this over here so we have some space. I could have used division just like we've been doing as well. So what I could have done is I could have done 15 divided by 4. So I'm really doing the same thing when I count by the multiples, where I make wholes of 4/4 plus 4/4 plus 4/4 and so on. I'm really doing the same thing because I'm taking groups of 4 away from those 15 parts. So 4 goes into 15. Well, let's think about that. I know that 4 times 3 is 12, and I have 3 left over, but those 3 represent fourths, right? So I have 3/4 left over. So I could have done that either of those ways. So this strategy is where we rename our mixed number into a fraction to solve. We're going to take a look at one more example today before you complete your independent work. You'll see here that I have the problem, the equation, but then I also have the words distributive and rename mixed number as a fraction. We're going to take this one problem and we're going to solve it using both of those strategies so you can see what you're most comfortable with. So first I'm going to solve this using the distributive property. So the distributive property is where I'm multiplying my whole number and I'm thinking of my mixed number as the whole number plus the fraction. So what I'm going to do is multiply my whole number 2 times 3, and then I'm also going to do 2 times 2/3 because I'm thinking of my 3 and 2/3 as 3 and 2/3, right? I'm kind of breaking it apart into those two, and I'll add those together. Well, 2 times 3 we know is 6, and 2 times 2/3 is 4/3. So my answer would be 6 and 4/3. But I know that doesn't seem right because I have a fraction greater than 1 with that 4/3. So I need to rename that. So 4/3 is really the same as 1 1/3, which turns this into 7 and 1/3 is my final product, okay? So that's using the distributive property in blue. So now in green, I'm going to solve the same problem by renaming the mixed number as a fraction. So I'll rename first. Okay, so I need to take my mixed number, 3 and 2/3. I'm going to write that here. 3 and 2/3, and I'm going to rename that as a fraction. Well, I know that 2/3, let's think about that. How many thirds are 3 wholes? Well, if I have 3 wholes, that's 3/3 plus 3/3 plus 3/3, which gives me 9/3, and then those 2 more. So that turns it into 11/3. And just to recap how I did that was I thought about 1 whole in thirds is 3/3, but I have 3 wholes. So I thought 3/3, then another 3/3, which is 6/3, and then another 3/3, which is 9/3. And then I have the 2/3 to add up 9, 10, 11/3. Okay, so now I'm going to multiply. And I know I just multiply my whole number times my numerator, keep my denominator the same, which gets me 23 thirds. But now I need to change this into a mixed number. So I'm going to divide. I'm going to divide 22 divided by 3. And I'm dividing because I know that 1 whole is 3 parts. So I'm seeing how many groups of 3 are in 22 to see how many wholes I have. Well, 3 goes into 22. Let's think about that. I know that 3 times 7 is 21. So I'll use what I know from multiplication. And I have 1 part left over. But it's really not 1 part. It's 1/3 because I'm talking about 3 here. So I get 7 and 1/3. So in blue, I did the distributive method or distributive property I used. And then in green, I renamed first. So think about what works best for you. Maybe try both of these when you're doing your work, and you can always refer back to this video if you get stuck with one of the strategies. Okay, good luck.